Welcome to a Nerdy Bunch presentation of Back to the Future. We are the collective known as the Cosmic Duo. We traverse the space-time continuum, watching movies 20 years or older to discuss their relevance then and how they hold up now. I'm your host, English Dave, and helping me not say that name 3 times is my co-host, Raven. What's up, Raven?
What up, Dave?
Andrew couldn't
be
here today.
Was my last what up better? I feel like I had a better what up last time.
You did.
Right,
It gave me like shivers.
What up, Dave?
There you go. Say it again.
What up, Dave?
Yeah, that's better. That's
there
much better.
So
10 points for whoever gets that reference. And
yeah.
Great reference. I won't even say what the movie is.
You get screening tickets.
Say it again.
Do we still get to do stuff like that? I don't even know.
We do actually.
Okay.
They're probably all gone now. But if you go on our Instagram page and you follow us on Instagram,
future.
Yeah, because I think the next screening we have coming up is for, as we record this, I should say, is James McAvoy's new movie. What's it called? I forget the name.
Another movie where James McAvoy is acting better than the script gives.
Oh, but
James McAvoy be acting so hard that you're like, does the script even call for this? Like, I don't know if this is necessary, but I'm gonna take it.
One day we'll
like,
do
bro, this is like a kid's movie. Chill. Like,
one day, enough time will go by that we will do one of his movies in Back to the Future. But we're here today to do 1988's Beetlejuice. The new movie's coming out this week as we record this, so we decided let's do the first film again. This came out in the US on March 30th, 1988, a budget of $15 million, and had gone to make $74.7 million at the box office. And I would say this is the movie that he had done Pee-wee's Adventure, or whatever that movie was called beforehand, but this was the movie that cemented.
Is he in Pee-wee?
No, Tim Burton.
Oh,
Tim Burton.
Shit. Thank goodness. I don't know why I was thinking Michael Keaton. I was like, bitch.
No, Tim Burton had done Pee-wee's Adventure, or whatever that movie was
called. Wow, that
then.
makes so much sense.
Yeah, and this was like the movie that put him on the map as like director. You know, and he'd gone to work with Michael Keaton, Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Catherine O'Hara, and what's her name? Yeah, and Winona Ryder. Is it Winona?
Huh?
Is it Winona Ryder or Winona Ryder?
Winona.
Because I've heard people
or
say
at least
Winona.
that's how we say it in America. I don't know what it would be in English.
No, I've been watching like interviews here, and like because of the new movie, and people call her Winona. And like, again, so I'm like, I don't know, is it Winona or Winona? Let us know.
I would think she would get offended by that, given her history. They trying to throw shots?
I don't know.
Winona. Nah,
those of you know how to pronounce it properly, you know, send us a message. I always went by Winona, but then I would watch interviews and it says Winona, and I'm like, is the interviewer wrong or am I wrong? I don't know.
It's Simone. Who knows?
The synopsis is as follows. After Barbara and Adam Maitland die in a car accident, they find themselves stuck haunting their country residence, unable to leave the house. When the unbearable Dietzes and daughter Lydia buy their home, the Midlands attempt to scare them away without success. Their efforts attract Beetlejuice, a rambunctious, isn't the word you hear every day? Rambunctious.
Yeah. You don't really have much of an excuse to use it, but when you do.
I know. Rambunctious. Yeah. It's one of those words that when you say it, rambunctious, you kind of like pat yourself on the shoulder. Like, yeah.
Right.
I used that. Yeah. Rambunctious. A rambunctious spirit whose help quickly becomes dangerous for the Maitlands and innocent Lydia. This is one of those movies that was a huge hit when it first came out. And it was actually written by Michael McDowell and Larry Wilson. It was written as a straight up horror film. And then when Tim Burton got involved, it got switched up a little bit. But before we get into all that, Raven, I'll start with you first. What's your history with this film, and how did it feel revisiting again?
I think most people that grew up, I'm a 90s kid, so most of us growing up, this was one of our favorite movies. This is a childhood cult classic. Before I think any of us even fully understood what a cult classic was, I think we could recognize this movie as one of those, because it's such a genre bender. you know, depending on which way you look at it, it could be a bunch of different themes, a bunch of different moods and a different movie entirely. But most kids, including myself, just remember it being this like playful, like crazy, like this adventure into that really weird world that was Tim Burton. We were all introduced to Tim Burton during this, you know, and then we got movies like Batman and you know, what is it, Nightmare Before Christmas, and there's so many classes that followed this movie, but I felt like this set the tone kind of like, this is what you're getting with Tim Burton. But I love the movies, you know, whether it be quotes or just scenes that I remember. I really remember the art style more than anything, with the stop motion and some of the really like just practical effects and graphics. We all remember the dance scene, you know, in the Calypso dance number in the dining room. So it's like, it's weird because in watching it again, I realized I remember everything that physically happens, but I don't think I ever was fully aware of what the story was, you know? And like, I watched it, I mean, even like 2-3 years ago, and still, it's like you get so caught up in like this wackiness of it all.
Yeah.
That is kind of like, huh. And watching it this time, I realized there's an actual plot and story to all of these scenes. It's kind of good. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
No, I'm with you. It's one of those films that, yeah, I was caught up in the visual, the stop motion look of it all. Tim Burton definitely created or started a style that would become his, even in movies that he just produced, right? I always talk about Nightmare Before Christmas. He produced that. He didn't direct that, but it's very much his style, right? And it's one of those things where his style can be felt in anything that he touches. And sometimes it's become problematic in more recent movies because it became more CGI than stop motion. And I don't think it always translates well when it's done the CGI. But back then, again, I think it's one of those movies that back then it stuck out, and like you said, we got caught up in the visual of it all because we haven't really seen anything like that in film. Right? It was very unique in its approach, and regardless of how the film turned out, it's one of those things that I always say to people in the context of its time, it was doing something so revolutionary that it got a lot of credit for that, right? Because, you know, watching it now, and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of stuff that would not fly today in that movie.
F-bombs.
It was a PG movie. No, it was PG.
Right, got away with
PG-13.
the F-bomb in a PG movie.
I don't know how they got away, because the thing is, I thought, oh, maybe PG-13 didn't exist then. No, it did. PG-13 did exist then, but somehow, I don't know what happened, it slipped under the radar.
So a little fun fact, PG-13 as a rating only came out within the same year, like a couple of weeks prior to the release of this movie. So like, it literally like slipped through the cracks. It's like PG-13 exists,
right?
But this movie wasn't being screened at that time, you know? So it's like, oh yeah, PG. And I guess they figured, you know, I mean, like, in real life, you know, you're subjected to whatever your parents approve of. So if your parents are there, technically you should be able to watch anything, you know? So, you know, it's very 90s.
I don't know if some parents are
very
ready.
1988.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I think a lot of things, again, part of this podcast is looking at things through the lens of then and how it is now, you know, and it's one of those things.
Never get away with half that movie now.
I understand how it got away with then, but then looking from the lens now, it's like, oh no, like, gosh, like, let's talk about the character of Beetlejuice, right? We'll start with the main title character. I think Michael Keaton brought a really kind of energy to this character that he just went 11. You know, he didn't dial it back. He went all out. What do you think is Michael Keaton as the character?
Well, first of all, it actually took 3 separate meetings from Tim Burton and Michael Keaton for Michael Keaton to agree to this movie. The second meeting, Michael Keaton started to understand a little more, but the first time that he met Tim Burton, he was basically like, this idea is wacky, and like, he couldn't make any sense of it. And he literally was like, I'm sorry, it sounds great and all, but I just don't get it. And honestly, I can't imagine somebody telling me the synopsis, or not even the synopsis, but how this synopsis is going to play out as a movie and it not be a serious horror. You know, like, as an actor, I would also be like, no. But I think Michael Keaton absolutely made this movie in a lot of ways to where most of us can't imagine this movie without him, you know? Like, I literally cannot imagine Beetlejuice being any other actor, because someone had to go 11, like you said, or go so over the top in order to pull this off to where you don't even ask questions, you know? And a lot of the things, which is pretty cool, I found out a lot of the way that Beetlejuice looks and acts and talks is all actually Michael Keaton himself that brought these ideas in and, you know, was approved by production. But, you know, the mold on the face was an idea that he had. You know, the fact that he looked like he was decaying. Michael Keaton asked that the hair looks like he had just gotten electrocuted. So, you know, a lot of the things like I can't imagine Michael Keaton outside of this role because literally Michael Keaton kind of created this character that we end up seeing, you know? And the fact that he was allowed to really get into character and was allowed kind of the creative freedom to change and alter, I think that really made this character so iconic. And it's really crazy when you realize you get 25 minutes into the movie before you see Beetlejuice. You know, I think over 25 minutes.
And he's only in the movie for like 17.
Yeah, I think it was counted like 18 minutes total or less, slightly less, that he has screen time. And in those 18 minutes, most of us remember him being there the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, for you to act that well to where your presence is still felt in other scenes that have, like, you know, because technically the movie's still about him. He's just lurking in the background. But for 18 minutes, that's all he was on screen for over an hour and a half. And that's who we remember the most. We remember everything about his character every time he's on scene, whether it be the little dance he does when he's walking into the strip club or, you know, certain moments like that. So I think, to this day, even with Michael Keaton winning an award for, what was it, Thingy Man?
Hawkman.
Hawkman.
Birdman.
I'm like
Hawkman.
Falcon.
All the bird characters.
Yeah, I was literally going through everyone. I was gonna get there eventually. I was about to say Hawkeye again. Birdman. I think like even with him winning an award for Birdman, I still think this movie might be Michael Keaton's best performance, just because the range. And before that, he'd only done, you know, comedies or kind of like goofy character roles. His characters weren't like super serious at all. So to see him in this,
I think after this he did Batman with Tim Burton. Yeah.
Paris and I were talking about this the other day, like who our Batman is. You know, obviously there's been a lot of Batmans, but everybody I feel like has their own Batman. Like everybody has their own Bond. And I can't lie, Michael Keaton might be my Batman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, nice. People get mad about that, but that was my time. You know, I was like, what, 5, 6 when Batman came out? I mean, I don't know. I'll
still say Christian Bale's my Batman. But I haven't seen that Batman in a long time, so like I couldn't tell you what's about except for I'm Batman. Like I don't remember the plot of that Batman movie. Maybe one of these days we'll revisit it. Like I know the characters and the things, but I couldn't tell you the plot of 1988.
Shit, 20 years is probably coming soon for that one.
No, it's past it. I'm talking about Michael Keaton Batman.
Oh, that's super past. Yeah. I thought you were talking about
No, not Christian Bale. No,
okay, because I was like, no, it can't be 20 years.
That one I remember.
Too old.
Actually, not that far. No, not that
That's
far.
what I said. I was like, shit.
It was like early 2000s, so actually.
I think that was before I met you. Shit.
Because it's before Iron Man, and Iron Man's 2008.
Right.
I think it's 2006 or something like that.
Shit.
So we're not that far away from Chris Nolan Batman. But I'm saying the Michael Keaton Batman, I don't really remember the plot and like what happens. I just remember the characters, and I always mix Batman and Batman Returns, you know, with Catwoman and you know, Michelle Pfeiffer. I just mix the two together.
I realized I confused George Clooney Batman movie with Michael Keaton movie, but like,
there you go.
But it's weird because I like in my mind the George Clooney movie is happening, but every time he takes his mask off, it's magically Michael Keaton in my head.
Just like,
yeah, like the movies are the same to me. Like it's just like because someone else. But yeah, still think it's my favorite role of his.
You know, fun fact: they looked at Sammy Davis Jr. first for this role. It's how crazy. I mean, at the time he was a big deal, but still, Michael Keaton was not the first person they approached.
See, I think that this movie wouldn't have been, like we said, as like memorable.
Yeah.
Like if an actor took this seriously to where it was a like fully serious performance, I think it would be like
And that could have
you
been,
pay
again, I don't
attention
know.
to the script too much.
And that could have been when it was more horror, right, as opposed to horror
Right,
comedy.
I can see that.
You could see that kind of stuff because he was supposed to be like a lounge singer, but this evil, devilish kind of lounge singer. And I could have seen him playing that role, but not Michael Keaton. I did like that they changed it, even though it's like they changed it to horror comedy, but you didn't change much in terms of to tone it down. Because again, it's very like Beetlejuice's character. Like the sexual
Crazy. He's
sexual harassment, like straight up sexual harassment. Like any chance he gets.
Okay, so all I will say is technically in watching this again, it made a lot of sense, right? Like, because like I'm a fan of the paranormal, and Beetlejuice is actually like a name for a entity, like a dark entity demon situation, which is why like even like now watching I'm like, oh, it's crazy I got away with stuff like that, you know. But technically if the character is a demon, demons are known to prey on kids and technically try to sort of impregnate them with, you know, devil babies, so it kind of makes sense that I think you know, even I think the more the shock
I think more of the shock is that it's in a PG. You know,
the PG part is crazy. Because I was watching it back and I was like, oh, it's crazy. Our parents are just letting us watch this rated R movie. Right. And then I looked at it, I was like, oh shit. Wow, they were fooled too.
Like it was and then not even his character. There's moments of like they just throw away lines and jokes about suicide. I was just like, whoa, that's heavy, you know? Like,
there's a lot of suicide jokes.
A lot of them. It's just like, whoa.
It's funny because if you look up like facts and stuff about Beetlejuice now, everything comes with the disclaimer of like talks of suicide, whatever.
Right.
But I think if you watch the movie itself, it has nothing.
Doesn't say.
Like, does it now? Have they forced it to update? No, right?
I didn't see when I rewatched it. And I watched it on Max. And there was no disclaimer. Like just random, just like talking about people slitting their wrist. Like one of the people that die inside the waiting room. This woman talks about how she slit her wrist, and then even Lydia's character talks about wanting to die and things like that. It's just like, whoa. It's like again, it's just I think it would have been very different if it came out today.
You know, it's funny how like kid brain like fills in gaps, you know, and it'll just like put something like rosy and pleasant in there. Because like for me, the receptionist, you know, the green one with the like slit wrist. When I was a kid, just because they're in like some afterworld situation, you know, if the dead can walk among us, I'm assuming everything exists. I legit thought she was a fucking mermaid or some shit. I thought she was like a dead mermaid.
I could see that.
Or just a mermaid in general, you know what I'm saying? Like the slit wrist never, I didn't even notice that.
You don't even notice that, yeah.
I'm not thinking anything about suicide, you know, I don't even know what that means. So like in my brain, she was just there because like mermaids are neither dead nor alive. I just assumed she was some type of like, you know, immortal being, and she was just there working a day job. Like, it was only in watching it now where I was like, oh shit, is she suicidal? And then I was like, oh my gosh, she killed herself. But then I was also like, why is she green? And then I went on a very deep dive on the internet, and the answer is because
no, I think a lot of this film
to make it playful for us.
I feel like a lot of this film, the answer is because. You know, because and again, I think that's a more of a symptom of its time. You didn't need to explain everything. If that movie was made today, I would have demanded where the happened. What's up with that sandworm, and how the hell did what's her name, Gina Davis' character, what's her name, Barbara? How did she take control of the sandworm? She just took control. Like it just happens.
We asked no questions. I don't care.
No questions. Like they make such a big deal about the sandworm. And the sandworm's belt, there is no context for the sandworm. Sandworm goes to attack her. It cuts away, and then suddenly she's riding it and comes and takes out Beetlejuice at the end. Like, what?
I appreciate you for saying that because usually before we do a podcast, I watch every movie like once for sure, like for real, and then I like skim the second time. But this one, I was like, I'm not gonna skim it again because you know I've been watching this movie my whole life. Then in reflecting, I was like, except for that whole sandworm thing. And then I was like, shit, did I miss that whole thing? Like, how did I miss?
Nope.
Because I was like, maybe I watched it and I missed the whole part where they explained the sandworm. So I was actually going to skim through it before we started this podcast, and I didn't have time to.
No explaining.
But I was like, I'm going to skim and I'm going to find when they mentioned this damn sandworm. Other than, sandworms. Like, literally, that's all he says. At some point, Beetlejuice says that, and then that's it. And then he comes back later to take Beetlejuice out. Yeah. And that was it. It was like, oh, okay.
Okay. That just happened. Fine, I guess. We just like it's one of the like they build up. Beetlejuice is about to get married to Lydia. It's building up, building up, building up. They're trying to say his name, and then Sandworm comes in, takes him out.
I guess she was. I guess she found out in the book. I guess they started reading. They don't have to sleep, so maybe she stayed up all day, all night cramming.
And I'll say that for better and for worse. Not all, but and for worse. This movie is very brisk. Like, boom, boom. It doesn't waste any time. Like, even just like, again,
it doesn't, but it does. Like, you're 25 minutes in before you see Beetlejuice, so you're like, what the fuck have we been doing?
Like the car accident,
like,
right?
I'm also very interested, though. Yeah, they just...
Like, they die quicker than I thought. I was just like, oh, shit, they're dead. Already.
It almost made like a boing sound in my head, like when they hit the water. Like, it was just so matter of fact. And they're dead. Boing. You know what I'm saying?
That dog is like, I'm going to kill you now. The dog's like, okay, bye, die.
We've talked on previous podcasts about how, like, everything just comes down to like raising the stakes, right? Like in film writing, it's just about making everything more and more intense.
Yeah.
But somebody deadass was like, just throw a dog in there, and everyone said, yeah.
And it's one of those things that's like the drop didn't seem that high. I was like, they died. Okay, I guess maybe they were trapped in
the water. Didn't seem that deep.
It's like, bloop,
I was like, wait, did y'all drown, or did like your head hit the thing? Did you get trapped? Did the car catch fire? I do have a lot of questions about the car crash.
Yeah,
but like, this is the thing too. When I was younger, I want to say it took me a while before I realized they were even dead, man.
And again, maybe that's the point, because they don't realize they're dead. When I was a
kid, I was like, I didn't get it until like borderline the dinner scene, like the seance. I was like, oh shit, they've been dead the whole time. When the fuck did they die? And then it's like, oh my god, they went and then you rewind it, and all you see is that boing, and that's it. Yeah. And I missed it all. Yeah, the little car crash. It was cute. I like the use of miniatures. Love the use of miniatures.
Oh, yeah. The opening scene.
I'm a huge fan.
You're not quite sure.
Yeah.
You're not quite
Such
sure.
A smooth transition. Because you're like, something looks a little off in this.
Yeah. I thought that's
I've been to Vermont. Also, fun fact, a lot of this movie was filmed in Vermont, and the cover bridge that they died on is in Vermont. I actually got to visit it. I might be capping. Did we go visit that drawbridge? Cover bridge in Vermont movie? Okay, I'm capping, kids. I think they call it capping now. So we want to go. I have it in my thing, but it is in Vermont.
You want to go so badly,
you've been 6 different. Right. I've been to 6 different cover bridges in Vermont in honor of this movie, and haven't been to the one, but I'll get there one day. Either way, a lot of this movie is shot in Vermont, and I've been there a few times. So in watching the aerial shot, I was like, oh yeah, it looks exactly like it. And then I was thinking to myself, how the did they get this aerial shot back then? Because I'm thinking to myself, in 88, I'm like, damn. And then I'm like, what lens? Because I'm thinking a lot of things. Because in terms of the focal point, we're pretty close. We're pretty close to the ground. So if you're up in the air, and then I'm like, this is really stable. So I'm having a whole moment of like, what equipment was used for this shot? I must know. So ahead of its time. And then the camera pulls out, and you realize it's a miniature. And I was like, oh, thank God. Very cool. Because I was having a moment like, maybe I don't know anything about film. But it was a good shot. And I loved, like, throughout the whole movie that, like, that was kind of worked into it. Like, that, and that kind of became
the miniature,
the theme of the movie, or kind of became a part of the art style.
Yeah.
It was like in the very beginning, this guy makes miniatures. There you go. And then throughout the rest of the movie, anytime we saw some weird, claymation, stop motion moment, whatever, we were like, yeah, this guy makes miniatures.
I could have question it. If this movie was made today, I could have seen it kind of like being done by Laker Studios. Did Coraline and all those movies, like full on stop motion. I could have seen something like that. I think that would have worked. Like if this movie was ever remade, I would see it done that way, full on just stop motion the entire time. I think that would work. Let's talk about the supporting cast. You have Alec Baldwin, which I have to say, this is one of the few movies I can remember that Alec Baldwin isn't acting as Alec Baldwin.
At all. He's just acting.
He's just acting.
I was like, wow, what a great actor he is. Look at this guy. And he was so handsome. I was kind of like, I was taken aback. Oh, shit. Okay, Alec.
You also have Gina Davis, one of my favorite actresses from the 80s and 90s.
Love Gina
I think she's so great. If you haven't seen The Long Kiss Goodnight, listeners and viewers,
one of the best movies ever.
Kiss Goodnight. Great movie.
That is her best movie.
Oh, I would say that.
This is Michael Keaton's best movie. Long Kiss Goodnight was hers. And
Yes,
I don't
for
care
sure.
about that new show she's in on TV that I hear is dope. I don't care.
And also she's in. I was surprised I didn't realize she's the new movie Blink Twice.
Fine.
The Zoe Kravitz movie. She's in that.
Still not better than.
But still not. She's just in it. It's not really her
goodnight.
movie. No, definitely
She ain't
not.
no Charlie.
Do you know who impressed me in this movie watching it this time around though? I love Catherine O'Hara in this movie. The mom from Home Alone. She's so good. I love her fashion.
In one of the scenes when she's in the kitchen, she's chopping up vegetables and stuff, she has on like this red sort of overalls. Yes, the red overalls is actually her husband's sweater in a previous scene upside down and tied around her waist. I was like, yo, wardrobe is just getting it.
She's wearing like gloves as a headscarf.
Literally gloves tied. I think that's what I love about the movie though, is like it's just so indie.
Right,
like it's so like we don't need a budget. Like that's just how it feels. Like when you and your friends are like, I don't give a shit, we're making it, and like we're gonna figure it out. And like you write some ridiculous scene and you're like, I have no idea how we're gonna pull this off. And you like make it work. This is the epitome of this entire movie. Like we're gonna make her look really like an artist and edgy and stuff. And as a kid, again, never noticed it. Never noticed the gloves on her head.
No.
Never noticed this upside down sweater. All I cared about was that I understood the theme of this person. This is a bougie, uppity, snobby artist woman, who might be a little playful. She might have a little bit of a playful side to her, which we see in the end. So it was like, wardrobe made sense. But, as a kid, I definitely didn't notice that. Now I can't unsee it. Now during that scene, I'm just like, that bitch really got some gloves.
But that's the thing. I think that her and the other supporting actors do a great job of also leaning into it, because even like the scene, the dinner party scene where they all just start dancing, and to the music. It's one of those things that they do a fantastic job of. What the hell's happening to me? Why is my body dancing?
All of them.
All of them. They do a fantastic job of that. I was just like, oh wow, this is really good.
Even still in watching it, I'm convinced.
Right?
I'm like, yes, it's the scene where Beetlejuice takes over, but I still feel like he takes over.
Yeah,
like,
they feel like they've
something took over them. Well, not Beetlejuice, the couple.
Yes.
Which is now I look back and I'm like, this is adorable. I never realized the purpose of the scene. I never cared. Random dance number in the middle of a movie? Of course.
Fun fact: it was originally supposed to be some like random
like R&B,
of its time.
I heard.
Yeah, R&B music.
Imagine.
Yeah, and it was
then it would be a horror movie. I can't lie.
Right?
I saw a bunch of white people get up and start dancing R&B. I'm freaking the fuck out.
I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was actually Catherine O'Hara's music. It was her choice decision to change the music, and there's a lot of Harry Belafonte music used in this. I've been singing Deo since the last week since I rewatched this movie.
Slaps every time.
Or jump in the line. Actually, also like all those songs kind of became popular again around that time because of that. There was like a resurgence of that music when that movie came out. And also, I think this was Winona Ryder's it was the movie that also put her on the map. I think playing this. Is she like the original goth girl?
Sort of, yeah. Emo goth, like, what do they call it? It's not emo goth. It's angsty kind of goth teen. Yeah. Anxious.
Yeah. But she
wasn't
annoying. Because I feel like a lot of the kind of angsty teen goth, sometimes you're like, shut up, you're so annoying. Like,
you never got to see the heart side of, because people don't think about it, and I appreciate that this movie showed that. A lot of the goth kids were just kids that were other, that didn't stand out, you know what I'm saying? That weren't like, or not stand out, but just weren't like everybody else, and were into different things than other people were,
not like attention seeking.
Right, they didn't want all that. They're wearing all black because they literally want to fade into the background. Like they don't, So I do like that this movie gave a heart to sort of like, the goth girl culture, where it was more so about the fact that like, I don't feel at home anywhere. Like I feel more at home or welcomed around the dead than I do the living kind of thing, and it made sense. It was morbid, but you get her side because, she's into the strange and unusual. Yeah. I myself am strange and unusual.
And I did like the line.
That delivery is so good too.
I like the line where it says, "Oh, the living choose not to see the dead. Not that they can't. They choose not to." I thought that was a great
And then
line.
she brings that up, like, "Oh, I read it in your little book that, that they choose not to see or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that whole thing because it's the truth.
Yeah.
Grown-ups are too busy in their day.
One thing I noticed this time around watching it, I definitely didn't notice as a kid, was the through line underlining narrative with the other family. Basically, it was a story about this rich real estate people trying to take over this town. And also taking advantage of ghosts. They're like, they see the ghost, they're like, haha, we can make money from this. I mean, that's something I didn't realize.
The entire time.
The entire time.
All they were doing was trying to make money.
It's just like, we can make money from this ghost, And I thought that was a really interesting kind of narrative of what's the word? Gentrification. It's like almost a different version of gentrification because they're from the big city. Come and, the dad is trying to call his boss like, hey, we can buy this whole town for cheap and we can do this whole show around this ghost. As soon as they see the ghost, they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. Let's bring our friends over to see this thing. It could be a really cool experience. And I thought that was really interesting. That completely went over my head as a kid. Didn't even notice that aspect of the story. And I almost find that that's my favorite aspect of the narrative, that was the underlining story. It's almost like finding out that in Alien, check out our podcast on Alien, we did that already too.
Yeah,
it's like
fire.
That the bad guy isn't the alien, it's the company. Right. It's that kind of story, like real estate trying to take over, and that becomes the bad guy. And I thought that was really, really good. Anything that stood out to you this time around or watching it again?
Well, definitely, like you said, like that part of the story, or the fact that also, like, Lydia was in school in New York, and left school in New York to come live with her parents or whatever, or at least her dad and her new stepmom, which, like, I sort of picked that up before, but, like, I didn't really realize, like, she, the whole, like, oh, well, you were miserable in New York, you're going to be miserable here. And that, and honestly, I didn't understand Ortho's character at all. I just thought he was like a friend of hers. I thought he was like a bestie. Like, I didn't realize he's actually like a frenemy or like a person that she's just trying to impress constantly. That like he's not necessarily a friend of anyone. He's just some artist snob interior designer. That's actually terrible because a lot of the designs and stuff and the way that the house is decorated the second time around looks terrible. That was Ortho's doing. And, the father never approves the entire time of the way that the house looks.
Yeah, he just wants to just relax.
In terms of design, that is extreme. And if if I'm a ghost or if I'm anything, even if I was previous owners of the house and I didn't care about a house I used to live on, if I drove by that, I would be so mortified. I'd be like, what the did you do? Because it's such an extreme renovation and in such a short amount of time that watching it again now, it makes a lot more sense to me. Like the themes of the house, like you said, with the gentrification, like in the beginning, the quote unquote cousin was like, you guys sure you don't, I could get you a good price for your house. This is a lot of house. It's a big house.
She comes at 6 a.m. I didn't realize.
What you doing here? What?
Barbara's like, I think it's like 6:30 a.m. in the morning. You come to my house. Like, what?
Like, and she didn't even care. Like, her cousins died and she put that shit on the market like a week later. I was like, damn, ruthless. I'm almost like, did she put the dog in the road? Right. That's going to be what part 2 is about.
Ooh, that could be true. And then she's even saying, "Oh, tell your husband, tell your father, I'm the one who decorated. So if you need any help."
Right? I was like, the fuck, just zero remorse. So like things like that, I didn't realize any of that. That was big for me. Also, even just something as small as like the parents reading the book for like humans interacting with the recently deceased. I forgot what the name of that book was. But I was like, oh, in the end, they all live in harmony. I don't know why that last sequence to me, I always thought it was 2 different houses. Like, I never
that's to say,
realized they were in the same place.
They're in the same. Like, it was because the decoration, they split the decoration. You see
which
the
makes
wallpaper,
sense now.
which I thought was great.
Right, but I never caught that until now. Like, for years, I just thought Lydia went to move in with them, and that the other parents just lived somewhere else. I was like, oh, it's the same house. Oh, they're on different floors. Yeah, okay, because
you see where the wallpaper even splits. Because they had I don't know what wallpaper. I mean, both wallpapers sucked. I don't understand.
I was like, it's both ugly houses. Like, how y'all find these ugly ass? It was just shocking amounts of ugly interior design. But yeah, all of that. And then like I will also say, like, I didn't notice a lot of the bureaucracy of the, what do you call it? The office, I guess, the deceased, what is it called? It
was just like I
They
think it was
called
called.
it something.
Yeah.
Fucking the shit. The other side.
Yeah, other place, whatever. The
Yeah.
waiting room.
Yeah, the waiting room. All right, cool. Yeah, so a lot of the story of the waiting room, I don't think I noticed. Like I was able to grasp that this is where people wait. I'm assuming to pass over.
And how much
figure out where
time
they're
goes?
going.
Time moves differently.
Right. So it's like certain things like that I understood, but I didn't understand that people were there waiting to cross over, and that everybody had a specific amount of time or a specific time they were supposed to come. Almost similar to like a DMV where like you get a ticket number and then you have to wait your turn, and it takes forever. Which I love the ideas of that. Like I had never really been to a DMV like that as a kid, so I didn't understand like that aspect of like you're gonna go to this place, you're gonna get a number, you're gonna wait forever. Even in the end, him taking the guy's ticket, like
Yeah.
in a DMV, you'd want to do that. It's like
Gets his head shrunken.
Gets his head shrunk.
No, and even we're talking about the renovations, worst builders ever. Like, just their renovations is a horror movie. How many times they almost kill people? And they didn't even care. They just didn't care. When she's like, "That's my artwork. Can you put it down?" Guy just throws it down.
I was like, "Damn!"
Like, what?
And she's like, "That's my artwork." He's like, "Huh?" She's like, "That's my." Like, well, somebody did it, and then I'm thinking in my head, "Say that shit is ugly," and then he tosses it. I was like, "Damn!"
I was like, even if it's ugly, you're being paid to move this. You're just gonna throwing it around.
Hey, I was like, this town is rude as hell. But I mean, it makes sense. They're probably like gentrifiers throwing their shit. Like,
shit, bullshit.
And the movie was black.
Right.
It's like, gal.
What do I talk about to you?
Juno too.
I would say I actually really liked Danny Elfman's score. I think the score was very like impactful. Like like I love that feeling and tone. It feels like felt very Halloweenish, and you could see that he would utilize that kind of score in many other Tim Burton movies. I think he also did I think he worked with Tim Burton through a lot of stuff that he did. Whatever I got here. What any
sounds similar to Nightmare Before Christmas. So I would assume he did that too. I'm not looking it up now, so I'm not sure. But I feel like it sounds the same to my ears.
One moment I noticed now that I didn't notice as a kid, it's when Barbara and Adam are trying to scare the family away. And they go, ooh, ooh, and Lydia thinks it's their parents having sex.
She took all those pictures saying weird fetish shit.
This
is another reason why I was like, how is she getting away with this stuff? Like,
right.
In this movie, like, this is PG.
Right.
Because I forgot what exactly she said, but she's like, ew, gross sex stuff. Ew.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's funny because my wife and I, like 2 years ago, we were actually specifically them as ghosts.
Oh, nice.
Like, we had, like, the same, literally. And everywhere we went, people were like, ghosts? We were like, no, we're ghosts. Only specific people caught it.
I always liked the visual of when Barbara and Adam, when they kind of pull their faces, stretch it out.
Yeah,
I always like that look.
It's still creepy.
Right? It is so creepy. For me, that's probably some of the creepiest visuals in the film is just that. Because that in a horror movie.
Other than the snake. Snake's still a little eerie.
Yeah, Snake's eerie.
It looks bad.
Because of the stop motion of it all, yeah, it didn't scare me as much. But those faces just stretched out, and Adam struggling to put it back. Right.
Oh, this time with Lydia wanting to die was a lot more serious to me. Like, I don't know, I never really noticed. Like,
no,
like I know.
Can I die too?
But or like the we want to stay with Lydia. I was like, because I think for a while I was like, y'all don't know her.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And like, granted, they don't, but I realized, they were a couple that was trying to have kids and couldn't, and accepted
that's
the fact
another
that they
subtle
would
thing.
never have kids. Which, like, I didn't notice any of this either. Which is why they have that big house.
This house would be good for someone with a family. Ooh, low blow.
Ooh. Right, like damn. But yeah, so I didn't notice that either. Like, this is something that I noticed this time too. Was that they were trying to have a kid, so it would make sense that they would meet a teenager that's in like this existential crisis or whatever, and
who doesn't get along with her parents,
her in as her own, right, and whose parents literally don't really see her or acknowledge her. It makes a lot more sense now. Originally, when I saw it, I was kind of like, all of y'all are kind of getting real attached real quick for no reason. You know, it was like, for Lydia, it's like you trust ghosts more than your parents, you know, and that says a lot about how she feels towards them, you know, and even for them, it was like, you know, you have the chance to cross over or pass on or whatever, and you decide to stay here, to stay with this human.
But then also just understanding how much time passes in the film, right? When you're young, you thought it just all happens in a weekend. And it's like months and months and months, because it's going to be between like time dilation and all this kind of stuff. A lot of time passes. The
thing that made me realize that was the design in the house. Because like now that I'm older, I am aware of how long renovations actually take. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they moved the furniture in one of the scenes, and then after
they build a whole section.
They're building things. There's a whole outside, like, what do you call it? Gondola?
Gazebo? I don't know.
Yeah, one of them shits.
I don't know. One of those things. Something. It's
about
weird.
To say fedora, bitch. One of them things. Anyway, so. But yeah, those things. Pergola. Yeah. Funny enough, I figured out that word. I'm very proud of it. Probably still isn't what I'm talking about. Anyway, so
rambunctious.
They had that little outside thing that they were sitting on with Ortho.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, now realizing I'm like, okay, they had time to like rebuild the whole house, and then they showed an exterior shot of the house, and literally the outside of the house is completely different. It's just pure white, and like they have a new lawn somehow.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, it's been at least 6 months, I'm assuming. Right. You know, from when they moved in to now, it's been at least a few months. They've had time to like not only furnish but design and add on. So it's been a while, you know. But yeah, like you said, when I was a kid, I thought it was a span of like maybe a month tops.
Fun fact: it won the Academy Award for Best Makeup at the 61st Academy Award. I could see that.
I could see that.
Makes
sense. It is really good makeup. Yeah. One
thing I didn't realize.
I'm just getting old. It was really good. Like in the seance moment. Like
when they're getting all old and and their body starts falling apart.
Because that's still good.
That was done well. I thought that was done very, very well. One thing I didn't realize until watching it now was also the name Beetlejuice. It's not spelt like we see in the market. It's not Beetlejuice. You know, it's phonetically. It's said phonetic. I think it's almost spelt phonetically, like Beetlejuice. They kept on saying Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. You know, and throughout the whole film, there is no time in film where it's spelt as we see it in the title. It's only in the marketing, and that was done because when they did test audiences, nobody knew how to spell it. So it's just like, audiences are dumb. Let's give them the spelling properly. Because even in the end credits, it's still Beetlejuice. And I thought that was interesting. Like, someone in marketing was like, no, you got to spell it this way. And even then, the opening credits is the only time you see it spelled B-E-E-T-L-E juice. But then someone made a mistake and had Beetle space juice, and it's supposed to be one word, not 2 words. Someone messed up and just left it there. It's one of those things.
Like, this movie is just so much like, you know what,
just
send it out.
Yeah. You know, and
but it makes sense though why I felt like that's why we also thought it was a kid movie, because you put Beetle in a title, kids are gonna go nuts. And it's juice. Bugs.
We like juice.
Yeah, I love juice. And
kids like juice.
Beetles are gross, but ooh, you know.
and I would say, for all my modern point of view critiques for this film, because from a modern point of view, I do have a lot of critiques for this film. I still think it was successful because, again, like I said, it brought a lot of new ideas to film. It was very inspired a lot of films, inspired fashion, inspired looks, inspired so much at a tone that I think, yes, okay, if they were to go about it again, they'd probably, make it tighter and make things make more sense and flow better. But I still think it's one of those movies that had a lot of influence, and I will give it credit for that. It influenced a lot, and that's why we still remember it to this day. I think it does a great job of that. Any final things you want to bring up?
I don't think so. I think I said most of my facts throughout. Nothing crazy, but Alyssa Milano was actually the runner-up to be cast as Lydia at the time. So it's an interesting. Like, I could see it.
I could see it. I could have seen that. Definitely.
I could see it. But I wonder where Winona would even be now. Like, Because Winona was kind of typecast after that for like a while. Like she ended up being like the dark girl and everything for like 4 or 5 movies after.
Like even with her in Stranger Things, kind of
right. She's still kind of dark and weird.
Of course, she's in Stranger Things. It's a dark, weird show.
right. Literally, like the day I see her in like a lighthearted rom-com, I think it'll freak me out. But you know, yeah. I think that was about it though. Yeah, I love the acting. I love Ortho's character even more now.
I like when he's trying to run away, and it's like he's trying to leave.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, I didn't realize Catherine O'Hara's character was a struggling artist.
Yeah,
that dude was playing the shit out of her though. He was like, "I've been wasting money on her for years." What did he say? He's like something like, "Oh, I forgot." He said something that was a crazy burn.
Yeah, no, he was an agent or something like that.
Yeah, it was our agent, and he was talking about how he didn't make
I get first dibs because
yeah,
he talks about
he told her something about her artwork. I was
artwork
like, damn.
sucks. I was like, ooh, ouch.
I'm like, every chance they got, they throwing shots at her artwork, yo. Right? Damn. But we kind of also all know that person. Like, it's all the endorsements, all the money.
This is true.
You look at their art and go, really?
You're getting paid? What?
I'm like, all right, I guess so. Yeah, but I think that's most of the stuff.
No, again, I enjoyed watching this movie again.
It's still great though.
I'm curious but slightly apprehensive about the new movie because it's one of those things where you can't do the same thing, but we don't want it too different either. It's that kind of middle ground. Right. I don't want to change, but I don't want the same thing. So how do you, or is it going to be full of CGI instead of stop motion? You know, I don't know. Fun fact, there was original plans for a sequel not long after the original movie, and it was supposed to be Beetlejuice Goes to Hawaii. And it's supposed to be this thing with real estate in Hawaii, and he's working with the Hawaiian gods to get rid of the real estate moguls, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it was random.
No, thank you. Sounds very 90s sequel. Very 90s sequel. Ernest goes to whatever.
Right.
It's like all those somebody goes somewhere movies didn't do very well. So I'm very happy Beetlejuice did not go anywhere. Like don't go to Hawaii, don't go to Canada, don't go anywhere. Just stay where you're at. Do that same thing.
Yeah, do the same thing.
As I'm like now, you know, I'm hoping that it's gonna be about the fact that you know, it's a whole generation later, and the house is technically haunted.
At first, I was like, why aren't Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin in it? But it's like, it wouldn't make sense because they look older in real life now. Because if they died, they would have to still look the same. You know, and you couldn't have them look the same. That's why they're not in it.
Damn, they're not in it at all?
No, as far as I know. Unless it's like a quick cameo at some point. Yeah. But
probably
they're not.
Some AI version of themselves.
Yeah, or just a photo or something like that. But yeah, no, they're not. Or maybe some throwaway dialogue that they moved on. You know, something like that. But they're not, as far as I know, they're not in this movie. What do you nerdies think of Beetlejuice 1988? How does it hold up? Is it your first time seeing it? What did you expect? And what did you think of what you saw? Are you looking forward to the sequel, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice? We're going to check it out this weekend, and hopefully we'll try and do a review podcast for it. I've got my tickets. I'm going to watch it on Friday. Are you watching it?
Hopefully this weekend. Maybe
Nice.
they're
I don't think your wife will let you not watch it.
No, there's no way. We've been trying to be them for Halloween for years. This is my plaid shirt to rep.
Oh yeah,
for homeboy.
I noticed.
Paris has the dress.
Nice.
So it might be, maybe.
Well,
but yes,
on that
I have
note,
to see it.
of course. On that note, thank you, Raven.
Thank you.
This has been a Nerdy Bunch presentation of what are we doing? I don't even know what we're doing. Of Back to the Feature.
Oh shit, Back to the Feature. I had a moment too. I was like, fucking hey, I don't know.
What podcast are we doing? Of Back to the Feature. If you like this episode and this podcast, give us a thumbs up and share with your friends and hit that subscribe button because it helps us get more attention. And if you have any comments you want to give to us or any thoughts, find us on social media at The Nerdy Bunch, or you can send us an email, thenerdybunchpodcast@gmail.com. Keep it locked on the Nerdy Bunch for more reviews. And like Raven said at the beginning of this, you can, especially if you live in New York, you can get free screening tickets to movies that are yet to come out. My name is English Dave, and as always, Raven,
Keep it nerdy.
Peace.